This episode is brought to you by Pure Energy Apothecary, a woman-owned skincare and wellness brand founded by my friend Dawn Lancaster. Dawn and I go way back, deep diving into essential oils. We shared a passion for creating intentional products, just like the ones Dawn continues to craft today with Pure Energy Apothecary. When Dawn said she wanted to offer you 20% off Pure Energy products, I was thrilled. Pure Energy products are handmade in Vermont with ingredients you can pronounce, and they smell amazing. They are rooted in real aromatherapy. Visit pureenergyvt.com and use the code PURECHANGE for 20% off just for being a part of the Change Happened community. Pure products, pure purpose, pure energy. There are moments in life that quietly or suddenly change everything. A diagnosis, a loss, a decision you didn't expect to make. And once that moment happens, the real question becomes, then what? Welcome to Change Happened, Then What? A storytelling podcast about the moments that shape us and the lives we build after them. Each episode brings you a real story told with honesty and care, where everything was questioned and where even then they chose to keep moving forward. This isn't an interview show. It's a place for real stories shared thoughtfully, sometimes messy, sometimes hopeful, but always human. I'm your host, Heather Holt, and I'm so glad you're here. Before we begin, I want to invite you into something I'm doing called the Changed Me Community Drawing. Stay tuned to the end of the episode to find out how you can enter into our monthly drawing for a super cozy Change Happened trucker hat or a super soft tee. Now, let's dive in. Brief content warning. Today's episode contains discussion of childhood sexual abuse. Please take care of yourself while listening. Now, let's dive in. What happens to a child who at birth is robbed of their right to freeze? One of our God-given survival responses alongside of fight and flight. What happens when you grow up feeling like you never quite fit in anywhere, not even within your own family, except maybe with a mother who was taken too soon by cancer? What happens when the weight of all of that has nowhere to go and addiction becomes the way you cope? Today, I want to introduce you to Richard, a man now, but for most of his life emotionally stuck at the age of 12. In this episode, Richard shares what it's like to live inside a body that never learned how to fully feel safe, and how after years of survival and struggle, he found healing in a way he never expected. This is a story about trauma, resilience, and what it means to finally grow beyond the moment where everything stopped.
I grew up in Ireland in a family home, middle-class family. Nothing bad in my family. They're all very healthy, they're all very, very good people. The problem was they weren't my tribe, and we just weren't a fit. And I had to always keep trying to fit in, and it never really worked. And I couldn't understand it. I thought there was something wrong with me because I didn't fit in. I must have been adopted, or I had this idea at the age of about 10 or 11 that I must have been adopted. I was named after my father as the second oldest, but I just didn't connect on a level with my brothers and sisters and my parents. Beating or abusing or alcohol or drugs. They were a perfectly normal middle-class family who were driven to success. And I was maybe the bad apple. And then at the age of 12, I was molested, and I believed it must have been my fault, and that destroyed me mentally and emotionally. I kept it a secret. I couldn't let anyone know because I felt the shame in my family that I wasn't able to defend myself or say no or stand up for myself or ask for help or draw attention. I would bring shame on my family. So my family didn't know that I had been molested. No one knew. My mother, who was probably my biggest link in the family, died of cancer. And I felt she betrayed me because she's dying of cancer. She's meant to stay around forever and kind of take care of me. And suddenly she's dying. And it's like she betrayed me. And I was very, very hurtful to her in her last months of her life. Didn't know what was wrong with her little soldier that was hurting her so badly. I didn't know any better. I was a young child that just didn't know how to cope with life.
Shame and betrayal, both arriving before Richard is even a teenager. And this is something that matters to say out loud. It's very common for children who are sexually abused to feel shame, even though they did nothing wrong. Children often internalize responsibility because their nervous systems are still forming. They don't yet have the language, context, or power. So the body tries to survive the only way it knows how, by turning inward. Many children often suppress these memories, not because they're gone, but because the mind protects what it isn't ready to hold. Those memories don't disappear. They wait, sometimes for decades, until something in adulthood triggers them back to the surface. I know that shame firsthand. There were only a handful of people who knew what I went through as a child. And it wasn't until I was 43 years old that I finally told my parents about what started when I was 7. What I've learned slowly, painfully, and honestly is that speaking about it doesn't isolate you. It's actually quite the opposite. You begin to realize you're not alone, that what was done to you was wrong, and that as children, we had no tools, no language, no protection, no understanding to stop what was happening to us. And when you carry that kind of shame into adulthood, untouched, unnamed, unresolved, it doesn't stay still. It shapes how you see yourself, how you cope, how you survive. And this is where Richard's story shifts, because childhood doesn't end at 18 when the trauma is unresolved. It follows you into relationships, choices, and into the way that you try to numb what never got the chance to be felt. And as Richard moves into adulthood, we begin to see how that 12-year-old boy was still quietly steering the wheel.
So then I come into adult life, and I don't fit in my family, and I'm meant to be an adult, and I feel like a 12-year-old child in an adult's body because I stopped growing mentally and emotionally when I suffered the trauma. And then to be with anybody, I had to be completely drunk. I couldn't let anyone see my feelings, so I had to be drunk to be with somebody. And then I found poker machines were a great escape for me because I didn't have to deal with people. I was going to a poker machine in one of these casino places, and I'd just keep pouring money in there, and I'd steal money for this. And I had this kind of relationship with this machine, lights flashing. I'd win some, I'd feel high. Lose some, I'd feel depressed. And this crazy behavior going on for a while until my parents caught me embezzling the family business. I switched to drinking. So I went from being a compulsive gambler to alcoholic. I was just drinking till I could pass out. I couldn't believe how wonderful alcohol was because I could have blackouts. And blackouts meant I didn't have to live with my mind and the memories of the past. Again, my family did an intervention, told me if I don't go to AA or go to a treatment center, get clean and never drink and drunk again, drink or gamble again, they'll kick me out of the family. And I didn't want to be abandoned, so I said yes. For about 5 years, I was what they call a dry drunk, because I had all this baggage in the past, didn't have to deal with it. I didn't know how to be a real person in the present without my aids like alcohol and gambling. I was really in a really bad place, and anyone tried to get close to me, I was lashing out. My family were thinking it was much better when Richy was drinking, because at least then we could interact with him. But now we're walking like eggshells around him. I'm 27, Heather. I'm not a child anymore, but I'm not in a healthy place.
Richard finds temporary solace in his two addictions, alcohol and gambling. Not because he's reckless, or not because he lacks willpower, but because when pain goes untreated, the body looks for relief wherever it can find it. Eventually, Richard gets sober and stops gambling, but that's where the depression sets in. This part often surprises people, but it shouldn't. When addiction is removed without addressing the root cause, what's left is the original wound, fully exposed. The substances were never the problem. They were just the medication. So when they're gone, the nervous system doesn't suddenly know how to cope. It collapses. This is what happens when the dis-ease in the body, the unresolved trauma, has never been named, processed, or healed. Richard does what many people do at this stage. He goes to a doctor, he asks for help, and he's prescribed medication for depression. And while medication can be supportive and sometimes very necessary, it still isn't the full story, because what Richard is actually living with isn't just depression. It's a lifetime of survival, finally asking to be seen.
I remember a doctor once prescribed me for depression, and I took the medication for depression for about a year. But I remember one day, I'll forget it, I'm walking in my hometown going to work when there weren't that many immigrants around, okay? So there's a woman on the side of the road from Romania or somewhere. She's on the side of the road holding a newborn baby, begging for money. And I've had my medication, so all my emotions are switched off. And she pulls on the trousers of my leg, looks at me and makes eye contact and says, "Please, can you help me? I need to feed my child." And I had no empathy. I had no kindness, nothing in me. I wasn't fazed. It was like she was nothing. I just kind of pulled my leg off her and walked away. And that evening when I went home and the medication wore off, I felt such shame and self-loathing. I vomited. So when I went to the doctor next day, I said, "I want to get off the medication. I can't live on this medication. It's destroying my soul." And he said vehemently, I couldn't stop taking the medication. So behind his back, I went cold turkey. It was soul destroying. It was mind blowing to go from taking medication to not taking any medication. He told me afterwards, if he could have, he would have said, take half a tablet every day for a week, and then take a quarter of a tablet every day, and then take a quarter every second day. But I've gone cold turkey. I went from a year of taking medication to no medication.
Quick note before we continue. After you listen, you can head to changehappenedpodcast.com to share what stayed with you and enter the What Changed Me community drawing. More details at the end of this episode. Now, back to Richard's story.
I wanted to clear myself of the past so I could be at peace. I realized, I used to think if I could get the fast car and the big house and the beautiful woman on my arm, I'd be happy. And then I realized all I want is just be a normal, boring peace of mind. Be comfortable in my own skin and enjoying my life. And if it's simple life, I don't mind if I'm stacking shelves, living in a bed sit. If I can be content and at peace with myself, that's all I wanted. And that was the changing point for me. That was the time when I realized I'm going to find a solution to this.
For a long time, Richard is trying to just manage symptoms, trying to quiet what never seemed to settle. But eventually, something becomes clear. What he's feeling isn't just emotional. It's physical. It lives in his body. And no amount of numbing, chemical or otherwise, is going to resolve what's been asking for attention for decades. This is the moment where Richard does something different. For the first time, he's actually ready to heal what he's spent a lifetime avoiding. And this is where Richard describes what he calls his awakening.
So at this stage, I'm in my 40s, and I'm thinking what happened in the past didn't happen to me. I'm a 48-year-old man, and what happened to the child was a 12-year-old child. So I understood that what happened in the past didn't happen to me. I had to stop saying I was abused. We can't be the I was, we can't be the I will be. If we want to have peace of mind, we must live in the I am at all times. We can't go back to the I was for any reason. We can't go back to the I will be for any reason. So I will be is causing anxiety. I was causes depression. If we're in the I am, right now, I'm in a conversation with Heather in my home in Thailand, and I'm perfectly safe here. There's no man abusing a 12-year-old child in the room here at me. Whatever's happening in the world outside has nothing to do with me right now. I'm having a conversation with you. So, so that was a big learning point for me. So I wasn't a 12-year-old child. And then I really expanded on that, where that 12-year-old child suffered, endured, survived, and overcame that trauma. For me, as a gift for me to have a life beyond its wildest dreams. And how do I know that? Because I'm alive today. If that child had given up, I wouldn't exist today. So that child had to have come through it for me to have a life today. So that's the break-off point. It separates me from that. That child suffered all that and overcame it. So I'd be free today. Why am I giving life to something that he's defeated? When I give life to something that he's defeated, I betray him but also I'm bringing the death and decay and disease of a dead thing into my present. So I realized by bringing the past into my present and telling everybody, oh, this happened to me, I'm destroying my life in the present. We have to let go of the past completely. And that was my main moment of realization, that's awakening.
Richard explains something that makes me really think about my own trauma here. He talks about how trauma freezes us in time, how a part of us stay the age we were when the trauma happened, while the rest of us keep growing older. And healing, he says, begins when you recognize that both can exist together. You can acknowledge the 12-year-old who was hurt without letting him run your life as an adult. Richard says you don't heal by living in the I was. You heal by living in the I am. I am safe. I am grown. I am here now. And as simple as that sounds, it changes everything for Richard. Now that Richard has uncovered this new way of thinking, his shift into the I am state of mind, something in him loosens. For the first time in his life, he feels relief, not because the past disappears, but because it no longer defies his presence. He is finally able to release the 12-year-old version of himself from the job of survival, and in doing so, he steps fully into the present with agency, awareness, and choice.
But my life is in the present only, and I'm realizing how selfish I was and so closed-minded I wasn't aware of anyone else feeling that kind of stuff. So I had to realize that other people get depressed, other people get anxious. The only difference is other people don't let it rule them. They learn to let it go and live in the present and focus in the present. So then I did this thing where I got a sheet of paper and I put down Richard 64 years of age. And I put down everything in my life today, not excluding the past and the future. So not bringing the past in. So I've got my wife, Bo, we've got 22 and 17, not teenage anymore. My mother-in-law lives with us, and we have a dog, and we have 2 cars. We have a motorbike and a bicycle, and I have my health, and I like playing chess, I like playing golf, I like going swimming, I like going walking. I've got my friends in recovery, I've got my friends outside of recovery, I've got my family of origin. One of my siblings died of leukemia, my parents are dead, my grandparents are dead, most of my aunts and uncles are dead bar one. The family home is sold. And that's basically who I am today. I think I have a page of the 12-year-old child and put down 12-year-old Richy. So I call myself Richard, so I call him Richy, so I can separate there were 2 different people. All his 5 siblings are alive. The other one hasn't died of cancer yet. His parents are both alive, his grandparents are both alive, and all his aunts and uncles are alive, and he still lives in the family home. And he's a child attending school. I'm an adult with a husband, with a wife and children. So I can see we're 2 different people. And that helped me enough that again to separate from the past. So I would stop telling people, yeah, I was abused. Everything up until this morning is none of my business. So right now, on my phone, it says it is 4:40. So everything before 4 o'clock, up to 3:59, is none of my business. It happened to a different aspect of me. So I get the idea of, I'm only alive for this 1 hour right now. And this 1 hour I'm sharing with you. I'm not even sharing with my wife downstairs. It's you and myself having this conversation. And I can't go back to 3:59. And no guarantee I'm going to wake up at 5 o'clock. There's no guarantee of the future. All I have is this moment now. And that helped me very much to learn I had to let go of the past. That was the moment of when the miracle started happening. But first of all, I have to understand that my feelings and emotions are not mental disorders, that they're my God-given instincts, and they protect me. So when I feel anything, I have to take an action. Fight, flight, freeze, or, if I know about God, acceptance.
What Richard is describing here is actually very simple and very profound. He begins by writing it down, who the 12-year-old was and who he is today. Not to judge either version, but to finally see them clearly. Through this process, Richard comes to understand that they are not the same person. There is the child who was hurt and the man who survived. He even gives them different names, Richy for his 12-year-old self and Richard for his adult self. This distinction changes everything, because once he can tell the difference, he no longer confuses past danger with present safety. He finds presence and nothing in between. Richard begins to live from awareness instead of reaction. He comes to understand that nothing is promised, not tomorrow, not certainty, and not control. And in that realization, something opens. If we can stay in the here and now, we can finally look back at who we were and what happened to us from a different light, not as something we are still trapped inside, but as something we have already survived. And from that place, release becomes possible, not once, but every day. This is how healing stops being a single event and becomes a way of living. Richard then shares with me how this understanding naturally turned into a process he could offer others. Before we continue, I want to share something close to my heart. Dear Sweet One Lullabies. It's a custom lullaby made just for your child. Using their name, birthday, and whether they were born under the sun or moon, each story becomes a gentle audio keepsake filled with warmth and wonder, perfect for bedtime or just because. You can find Dear Sweet One on Etsy or at changehappenedpodcast.com. Now, back to Richard's story.
I needed to find some process where I could meet with my 12-year-old, and one way was to let go of my younger self. So I did the visualization with my clients where I close my eyes and I see myself, I see him in the clouds. So if I'm working with you, I say, Heather, well, let's imagine it's you and you've got a younger aspect of yourself with some event in the past, and that younger event says 12 years of age. And since you're called Heather, we'll call her maybe Heidi. So inside, I'd ask you to close your eyes, breathe into your nose only, and then you want to exhale it. I do 2 exhaling. One is the musical sighs. Imagine you're casting out your demons on your out-breath with your sigh. And then you do a yawn, you put your hands on your chest, breathe in deeply, put your head back, and set your arms out wide, open up your chest. And these are very effective in releasing your demons. And then the cough is for getting out all your stress on your back, by coughing it all up from the core of your being. I get my clients to cast it out from the depths of their soul. So I get my clients to let them go for 5 minutes or for 3 minutes or whatever to get used to them not being there.
Through breathwork and guided visualizations, his clients begin reconnecting with their younger selves, safely, gently, and in the present moment. At first, the release might only last 3 to 5 minutes, but for someone who has carried trauma for decades, those few minutes can feel like freedom. Over time, those moments stretch longer. Minutes become hours, hours become full days, and eventually, nights and mornings arrive without the weight of the past pressing down. Richard is deeply passionate about this work. What began as a way of healing himself has become a life devoted to help others release their younger versions of themselves that are still stuck in survival. He has written a book, Trauma Recovery Anonymous, which outlines this approach, a compassionate step-by-step framework for healing past trauma memories by learning to live in the present body rather than the past experience. Richard now works with clients around the world, helping them reconnect with safety, presence, and a sense of wholeness they may never have known. You'll find links to his books and information on how to connect with him in the show notes, as well as at changehappenedpodcast.com under Season 2 guests. And as we begin to wrap up our conversation, we talk about something that feels especially meaningful. Richard shares his remarkable experience of finding his way to Thailand, and in the process, finding his tribe. After all these years, he tells me he is finally comfortable in his own skin. He no longer relies on external substances to get through the day. So, of course, I asked him the question I love to end with. What makes you smile today?
Wow. First smile is the fact that I have peace of mind. I have to say, God in my life. If I go beyond that, my wife and my children, my life I have. There's so much to be grateful for, but it all started by the peace of mind.
Richard was a little struck by the question at first, but it doesn't take him long to find the answer. Peace of mind? After everything Richard has been through in life, to finally experience peace of mind and to have found faith outside of himself, it feels like a profound journey, and honestly, something that made me smile when I heard him say it. So I asked Richard to share his wisdom with us, and this is what he offers.
It's the first 3 steps of the Trauma Recovery Anonymous program. And the first one is, we're not victims. So when we learn to look at things from a different perspective, that whatever anyone does to us, they're doing it for their own needs or wants or desires. The second one is that we have all these higher powers around us. So your podcast would be a great higher power for people who are going somewhere for a solution, and they happen to come onto your channel, and suddenly they get a message of hope, and everything changes. And the third one is to accept that there is a God. And if you don't know the word God, you can use divine intelligence or supreme being or supreme mind.
Don't be a victim. Believe in a higher power and understand that there is a God. When Richard talks about using whatever language feels comfortable around God, I really resonate with that because he's not coming from a place of preaching. He's coming from a place of lived understanding, and understanding that he could not have done this alone, that the healing he has experienced came from trusting something greater than himself. And for me, I've often thought about the word God as an acronym: the generator, the organizer, and the destroyer. Not a being, but an energy that works around us and through us, and sometimes in spite of us, in ways that only faith can explain. And maybe that's what peace of mind really is. Not having all the answers, not erasing the past, but trusting that you don't have to carry it all by yourself anymore. And now for the What Changed Me community drawing information. Head to changehappenedpodcast.com. Click on the What Changed Me banner to tell us what stayed with you from today's episode or any interview episode you listen to as part of the What Changed Me community drawing. Each time you share, you'll be entered into a Change Happened drawing. You can enter more than once. Every entry is also automatically included into our quarterly drawing for a special Change Happened Super Prize, whether you've won before or not. Change doesn't end the story. It's often where the next chapter begins. If something in today's episode stayed with you, a moment, a sentence, a feeling, I'd love to hear about it. And if someone came to mind while you were listening, consider sharing this episode with them. Because these stories don't end where the episode does. They keep moving forward in what we carry with us and in who we pass them on to. Is written, edited, and produced by me, Heather Holt, with the loyal background support from my two sidekicks, Waylon and Dalton. Until next time, keep smiling and maybe let your dog inspire your next big idea.
There's always a reason to always choose joy. There's something deeper that the world can't destroy. Smile when you think you can't. Smile, get up and dance. Smile, there's a bigger plan. The storm only lasts for a while. So smile.